The following is an excerpt from my much-anticipated interview with David A.R. White. You can listen to more of the interview in audio form on my podcast, the Say Goodnight Kevin podcast, or to watch the full, unedited version of the interview, sign up today at sgkplus.com. With God's Not Dead, for example, that's kind of the movie that brought Pureflix into the mainstream. And then there was a second one, and when I saw the third one, I had my anticipations. I'm really critical of those movies. I have several videos talking about God's Not Dead. Surprising to a lot of my friends, I'm probably one of the biggest advocates of God's Not Dead 3. I had a lot of negative expectations for the film, and then going into it and seeing it, I was like, oh, this is different. There's something different and special about this movie. And unfortunately, when I talk to people, either they're like, wow, I can't believe you like that movie, or they say they made a third one. Yeah.
That's what I get all the time. There's a third one?
So why? Why is to me, it's the best one, because I think that it has a really solid story arc of your character. And it's a story arc that I think Christians can learn something from, because there is, like you said, we live in a very polarized time. And to me, I think God's Not Dead contributes to that. The first two, of kind of staking a claim to a certain side and pitting people one side and this side. Where I think the third one is very internal, where it's looking at, well, how do I, as a Christian, respond? And so it has that beginning starting off like the other two, where it's like, I am going to do this lawsuit. And it moves to your character growing to a place where you realize that Jesus taught us a little thing about love, and you go and talk to that pastor, and you're put in your place, your character, and maybe you as well. And I think that you playing that younger brother, learning something from the non-believing brother also is kind of something that's needed. I didn't word that as a question, but do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I mean, I it's interesting. God's Not Dead 1 and 2, as they are, I'm obviously, we're proud of those movies and the way that they for what they did. They opened up a lot, they sparked a lot of conversation and all that. And yeah, they're definitely, they fell right in the vein of what faith-based movies were. And God's Not Dead 3 is a much more internal look. It's much more story driven. It's much more, it's less cliche. And at the time, now when you look back on it, it doesn't, it seemed like everybody was, there's a line in there that something says about everybody's fighting, but nobody's listening. Everybody's yelling, no one's listening.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's so true. I mean, now it's like, we had our debates, obviously.
Right. Yes.
and there was a lot of yelling going on there.
Yeah.
So,
and very little listening. Yeah.
But the irony is, when God's Not Dead 3 came out, I guess a couple years ago, we thought it was bad then. And now it's even, it's to a whole new level. So, but I love that movie, and I love God's Not Dead, the third installment of it. Unfortunately, it just fell in, Imagine had already sucked up everything and was on this massive train. And we got that movie finished like 2.5 months before it was released.
Mm-hmm.
So we only marketed it probably 2 months. Because the first two had done so well that I think that, the kind of the thought was, and we were putting out too many theatricals at the time. We didn't, it was just a marketing thing is what it was. I actually believe that the movie would have done a lot better if we had a year. When Kendrick's release a movie, they have a year plus to market it, and seed the marketplace. And the same thing with Imagine, and they
have a name that people love and trust, and also only do one movie at a time.
Yeah, and they do one movie every 3 years. Yeah. So, but I believe that people would have came out for that if they had been more aware of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do think that there's this $80 million worth of all the Christians that pick a movie each year and say, we're going to go to one. And
they'll go one. Yeah. A lot of them go to one.
Right. And so Imagine was that one. that year.
Mm-hmm.
And War Room was that one the year it came out, and I think God's Not Dead was that one the year it came out.
Yeah.
And but God's Not Dead 2 wasn't, but it was close.
Yeah, I mean, it was 20-something,
Yeah.
whatever.
Like a debate movie.
It's really what Beckman is. Beckman's a debate movie.
Well, God's Not Dead, in a way, is a revenge movie. Think about it. It kills off the atheist, and we don't even know until the second movie that the liberal blogger is still alive.
Mm.
So, in a way, it kills off all the non-Christians. It's like a Tarantino film. The criticism of those movies is that they seem to act like there's persecution towards a group of people in a country where Christian persecution is not as prevalent as, like in the Middle East. You see the movie Infidel, where there are people hiding. And
I think the Middle East did their own version of God's Not Dead, though.
Oh, did they? Allah's Not Dead is a pretty good movie, I gotta tell you. It also ends with a lot of death, unfortunately.
And a sequel named Infidel.
Yeah. Do you think that those movies kind of play into a persecution that makes it look like Christians are being more petty by complaining about persecution that is like, oh, I can't say Jesus at school when there are people who are dying?
Yeah,
and being killed for their faith?
It's an interesting. I mean, so much of this business is about marketing, and is about like, where does I mean, people can always you can say, well, why did you make that movie? Or because the market asked for it. And as much as you could say, well, you're just out for the money, or, well, you're just out because of, no, we have 70 employees, 70 plus employees at Pureflix. And so people have to live and people have to eat.
Yeah.
And they have families. And so we make movies, yes, for our market primarily. To feed our market. People will say, well, you just make movies to preach to the choir. Yeah, we do. I mean, because if we don't, who does? Does Hollywood do it very often, or does Sony, a firm, does? Obviously they do it more than Universal or whatever, but Universal works with us, so we do it with Universal.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess, and I don't remember what your question was, except for the fact that,
do Christians in the U.S. have a persecution complex?
Right, here it is. But sure, I think there's a lot of complexes going on in our country right now. But that's their life, and so we're playing to their life, to what they're going through. We're not really aiming this movie at the Middle East. Yes, we love it when the Middle East takes it on. We put our movies in. Right now, our films normally our theatricals here hit about 50 countries in theaters. So, and then 150 on home entertainment and everywhere else that they go out to. So we love to share our movies with the world. Yeah. But primarily it starts with the United States. This is our audience. I'm not trying to alienate your massive Middle Eastern audience. I'm playing to the Middle East quite a bit, with I do apologize about that.
Thank you. Do you feel that then it's more the audience that it seems is driving kind of what happens next? So if people want different or better movies, they have to support those or go see them.
We're in. People love our. Okay, I'm going to bring this up, even though you're not bringing it up, so I'll just bring it up.
Okay.
Because I like this franchise, the Revelation Road franchise.
Sorry, I mentioned it a little bit earlier.
I thought we were going to be talking about.
When's the Revelation Road questions?
I'm talking about Middle Eastern, Yeah, people. Okay, so that's where Beckman came out of, is because the Revelation Road people, they love the Revelation Road movies, and I'm still working on those to do more of them. But we kind of took a sidebar to stretch outside that action world a little bit more.
You got to get more Kevin Sorbo in a fur coat doing a fake Australian accent. That really is the stuff that I watch that and I'm like, this is what I want. This'll be great. And then he's only in it for a little bit, and I'm so disappointed.
Well, he had 8 other Christian movies to go do.
That's true.
He only had a few minutes.
He's like, look, I got 5 more death scenes to do. where I pray the prayer of salvation.
Friday, for crying out loud.
Look, I'm playing in 5
was
different
pretty funny.
atheists this week.
That's Revelation Road 3 Black Rider, if people wanted to see that funny scene.
It's a great scene, yeah. Well, I mean, same with Bill Baldwin in this Beckman movie. I was hoping for insanity, and he does a great job in this movie. I know that all of that, like you said, these don't have the budget of John Wick.
Yeah. Well, the irony too is that, okay, so Gabe, Gabriel Sabloff is the writer-director of this movie, editor too, and he's the king of, like, he can go way out there. The problem is, and he shoots me a cut of, like, blood going everywhere and just like mayhem.
Yeah.
But the problem is that it doesn't, we can't have an R rating, first of all. And then the second thing is, like, there's a scene in there where I get a drill to the face, right? A drill bit's coming right at your eye. Mm-hmm. Now, we had to really cut that back because it doesn't pass QC, with our audience already. But on top of it, then you have Universals and the whole thing trying to get a PG-13 rating. So you're just limited. There's things that we wish that we could do, but we're limited.
But that's audience-wise. Do you feel like creatively, artistically?
I mean, I'm not making Tarantino films yet.
Why not?
Again,
what if you did, though?
I think half of our audience would just die.
But what if you gained a new audience? My Middle Eastern audience.
Yes, well, give it time.
Got a great reputation, but I ruined it. Homeschooled in the